It's quite a number of us on the call already. And happy International Women's Day. I'd like to remind all the participants to please keep your video and your audio off. We may call on you if you have some time towards the end of the session for some contributions, especially questions. Actually, if you have questions, please feel free to begin to drop them into the chat, and I will try and integrate them into the conversation that we're having with the ladies, but please do keep your video and your audio off. Right, so let's begin. Like I said, my name is Nekesa, Director of Strategy at AfriLabs, and we're here to celebrate International Women's Day together. And as we know, this year we are choosing to challenge the status quo and work for a gender equal world, celebrate women's achievements, and raise awareness against bias. As we all know, history has always shown that women always stand up to give in the face of adversity, and think about people more than just the end of the game. And today it's my absolute pleasure to have women leaders on the call to share their work and their community's work around how they put people first, how they put women first, to ensure that they're continuously choosing to challenge. Today, we'd like to acknowledge the hard work that we do, not just on this panel, but also the people in the audience. And so if there is any woman here, whether in leadership, whether in the innovation space, whatever spaces, I encourage everyone here as we go along with this conversation, please share your work. Let us know what opportunities you have available. Let us know what work you're doing that we could potentially plug in. Let us know if there's any women that you would love for us to celebrate on this call, or in the coming month, or in the coming year, because who said you have to celebrate women for just 1 year? Now I'll quickly do an introduction of my 4 amazing panelists, and then we'll jump right into the session. And so first, in no particular order, we have Rene Parker, the MD and CEO of RLabs. We have Hanae Bezad, the founder of Douar. We have Nadine Zoro, MD of Suguba Africa. And finally, we have Ekeledo, the Executive Director of AfriLabs. Now, as we begin, I read an opinion piece from Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who, as you all know, is the former president of Liberia. And in it, she says that it is no surprise that women-led countries have suffered 6 times fewer COVID-19 deaths than countries led by men. And this is according to a University of Dublin study. Women leaders are better placed to draw on informal networks to mobilize rapid responses and community support. They're used to find alternative resources and build ingenious partnerships to solve problems. And with greater numbers of women at the forefront of policy decisions, these skills are coming to the fore. And so for me today, it's the primary thing that I'd love to come out of this conversation that we have today is a celebration of the work that we're doing as women leaders. And so to Rene, to Hanae, to Nadine, and to Anna, today is the one day, if at all, that we will brag about the work that we do as women, because I'd really love for us to begin the conversation about how awesome we are, the work that we're doing in our individual organizations. And jumping right in to my first question, I'd love for everyone to speak through some of the work you've been able to do, especially in this last year and a half during the pandemic, that despite the pandemic that we've all had to go through across the world, your organizations have been incredible. I mean, it's no coincidence that you're on the panel today. And so we'd love to hear from you. We've seen the impact of women as leaders of countries, women at the front line, healthcare workers, women as primary caregivers at home. Let's speak now about you, the innovation leaders. I'd love for you to tell me one way in which you've excelled in the last year. And I'll pick Rene to please start us off.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy International Women's Day. It's really so exciting to be here, of course, to see the beautiful ladies. Some of you ladies I haven't seen in so long. And we're definitely blaming it on COVID, but thank goodness for technology. It always allows us to gather. For RLabs in the last year, oh my goodness, it was probably the busiest year, um, the most productive year. We have definitely, jumped leaps and bounds. We started a essential campaign last year. Well, the beginning of our financial year is in March, and that's when COVID hit South Africa. And at the same time, we had all these grand plans of what we're going to do, right? And we had all these funders lined up and all these partners, and we were going to do these amazing things in 2020. We had a theme called Year of Rise, and we were just going to go big. And then COVID hit. Some of our partners left. Like all the things that were signed, all the commitments that we had, everybody was like on pause. And we were like, okay, what does that mean for us? And yeah, and then we realized, what, um, people need to eat, a basic thing, food. We could push our courses. We could tell everybody, no, come and do training, or do training. And yes, we did take our courses online, but the reality was people were hurting, people were losing their loved ones, people were losing their jobs, nobody knew what was going to happen, and people needed to eat. And we decided we were going to run an essential campaign. Quite brave of us, because we had no money at the time. We had no extra money, and we're like, okay, there should be a couple of people that maybe they want to join us on this crazy notion. In 3 weeks, we managed to raise 10 million rand, which is about 600 and something US dollars. And it was for food vouchers. And we had this, one of our innovations was called Zlato. It's a virtual currency, a digital currency. And we ran a campaign for 12 weeks, to feed people, where people could equip themselves. They could do some courses. They could earn the currency online. They would then get a food voucher, electricity voucher. Yeah, and then we managed to feed 1.2 million people. 1.2 million meals were given, and that equated to about over 12,000 households. And it was really phenomenal. And for us, we just realized, what, you can't do anything by yourself. You need partners. You just need the drive. You need the tenacity. We needed everybody just to drop what they were doing and come alongside us and get onto this campaign. I think for us, that's one of the biggest highlights, yeah, in the past year. So thank you.
Thanks, Rene. Tell us what kept you going, because I mean it kind of hit the entire continent almost at the same time, maybe a few weeks apart. And I think what happened for a lot of people, not just within the African continent, but across the world, is that we got paralyzed. So what thought process did you go through from the moment, there was those talks of lockdowns and so on, to the point where you say, you know what, guys need to eat? Tell us about that process.
Well, that's an interesting process. It kind of goes like that, like all in one go. And so for us as an organization, we always realize, we are just stewards. Whatever we do, we're responsible for other people. So for us to get to a place where we like, what, we can't do this. I mean, personally, I was at that point, I'm like, how are we going to pay the bills? How are we going to pay the salaries? How are we going to do all these practical things to keep the families inside the organization going? And yet we want to be helping our extended community. And, we have an amazing management team. We have an amazing community that's around us. And when we were telling everybody, what, okay, we don't have money to pay certain bills, but we want to feed people. How does everyone feel about that? And the thought process was really including others, and not just carrying it by ourselves, because we could have just shut the door and try and figure everything out. But we were open with the community, open with our team. And I think the point of just, saying this is where we're at. And I think everybody just became vulnerable, and it was okay. We were losing loved ones. So sometimes you're crying, and then you're in mourning, and then, like, what, I have to get up. I have to continue. And so it was a roller coaster, but it's something you can't go through alone. And I think one of the other things that really stood out is that the whole world was going through it. Nobody was left behind. I know that's terrible to say, but everyone was going through it. And I think the more we spoke about it, and even with the rates of infection and COVID, and there was this whole stigma against it. And, you know, like if somebody in your household have it, automatically everybody, you know, is shunned, you know, and that's another topic. But the more we spoke about it, and the more we were clear in saying, you know what, people are struggling. People don't have food to eat. What are we going to do? Because it became a we problem. It wasn't just something I needed to solve. So yes, definitely including others and being vulnerable.
Thank you very much, Rene. Hanae, so Rene is saying, so basically what I'm picking from Rene is, one, we are responsible as leaders, whether men or women, we are responsible for other people. Partnerships are key. So especially this last year, it was impossible to work in isolation. Also appreciation for the people around us. There's a lot of amazing people around us. Many times as leaders, we take, the limelight tends to be on us, but the truth is the reason that we're able to shine is because there's all these amazing people around us. And then just the importance of including others. So Hanae, were you going through the same thought process, or what was happening at Douar last year up to now?
Thank you, Nikita. A lot has happened last year, I think, for a lot of people. And when it comes to Douar has gone through so much changes last year. First of all, it started with me moving to Rwanda to embrace a new role at Smart Africa. So of course, that created quite a challenge for everyone in the collective. And it was the most beautiful challenge because it got us to really test our capacity to make everyone grow into a new role. Whenever I moved to Rwanda, we had just onboarded a new member in the board, a female, and a national coordinator 6 weeks before. And for me, it was quite a challenge, of course, to let go of that and say, okay, so I'm going to take this new opportunity for growth, because I believe this platform of Smart Africa can make me create a better impact, a greater impact in alignment with everything that I had been loyal to when it comes to innovative ecosystems. But how do I do this with making Douar Tech also a priority? So working remotely, supervising remotely, and accepting to make everyone take their full place. And I think, you know, I believe this is true for a lot of things, but it's essentially what you create mirrors a lot of where you're at internally. So the inner growth of 2020 was just immense when it comes to accepting that things will not be done the same way as you're doing, and it's totally fine, and it's so much better this way, because that's the purpose, it's the goal. If you want to be a collective that's self-sustained ultimately, well, it has to embrace all the diversity of thoughts and aspirations and manners and ways of doing things. The thing is, when I left Morocco physically, we were in the middle of a partnership that was quite important, and you realize that it's really about you know, we were in the middle of this partnership that allowed us to develop the Tech Entrepreneurs Path, like the main program, the big program that I had designed, and having this capacity to transfer the trust that was built upon you to the trust towards an organization is something I think we're still in the middle of it. It's a process, but it's something I'm very, very proud of. And eventually with this, and I think we'll talk about this later on in the panel, but I feel like my biggest pride in this is that I've surrounded myself with people that I can fully trust to make the work so much better, to take this vision so much further than I would have imagined. And that allowed me to create some space for my own growth within this role at Smart Africa, with being in a minority at Smart Africa, representing North Africa, with understanding how to work with governments, understanding the limits of a platform like this, and still pushing the needle That was quite a year. Yeah, 2020 was quite a year that I will remember for a long time.
Thank you, thank you. So what I'm hearing you say that for you it was a year of personal and organizational growth, testing capabilities for teams. And yes, for sure, I have seen that across the board. Everyone is called upon. It's a special time. We're all being called upon to do new things. And so the true marker of great leadership and great teams is how we step up to the plate. So I hear you saying that. I also hear you talking about needing to work remotely and how you needed to quickly pivot to that. Inner growth for yourself and for your team, and learning to delegate and learning how to trust, right? Nadine, what is happening at Suguba Africa from last year to now?
I think last year has been a very interesting year for us. I mean, we had just launched the AfriLabs program. That is a Francophone regional acceleration program we launched. So we were supposed to have also the Francophone Africa Investment Summit. That didn't happen because we were kind of confused on how to deliver this great meeting and make sure that all the startups and the investors from different parts of the world could actually network and get opportunities for local entrepreneurs. And for us, it was a time to rethink our way of thinking in terms of networking, in terms of putting different organizations in contact and looking at ways to create new dynamic between the entrepreneurs, investors, and everybody. So using alternative communication means such as basic WhatsApp. WhatsApp has been very instrumental during this period, and in all the different programs that we launched, it has really helped the entrepreneurs to connect. In addition, we launched a new program for women. So that was our one full women program, and it was 35 women. It was great that it was an online program, so it was a good lesson learning process because we didn't think of a pandemic when launching it, but we had the opportunity to realize that it was possible to launch a program online in this setting, and also what were the social activities that could be added to those kind of online programs to make them more dynamic, because that has been the challenge. And this period was a very good learning process for us, because now we know that there are ways to make those online programs successful and make sure the entrepreneurs in those programs are fully supported and connected to each other through the different the different digital platform existing. It was also a good time for us to think about it was a way to rethink about the positioning of organizations, because it's always nice to have those times when you don't have to be moving, you don't have to be running, you don't have to be delivering. We all need time to sit down and reflect and think about where we're going to take the organization in the future. So for us, it was very good strategically. We reviewed the way we were working with a very small team. Actually, we rethought the way we wanted the organization to go, the partnership we wanted to build together with other organizations in Francophone Africa, and also the physical spaces we're setting in Abidjan. That was a new space, and we wanted to make it move. We had to close it for some time during the COVID, but we came out, I think, out of the situation stronger, and everybody was more satisfied with the way we handled the situation. So it was a good learning process, I guess. And yeah, we learned a lot, and hopefully this year actually looks so much better. And for us, we didn't really see, personally as Suguba, we didn't really see the pandemic being too bad. We thought of it as a way to build our resilience and also prepare our entrepreneurs to be more resilient, which resilience wasn't a key topic in startups. And we were always thinking of innovation at this time, innovation. How do we behave when things don't happen the way we expect to? And it used to be very theoretical before, but now we know in practice what it looks like when you plan and things don't go the right way. So we are pushing the organization, we're supporting to be more resilient, and yeah, more programs targeting these unexpected changes in the ecosystem. Okay.
Thank you, thank you. I love that. I think the key is things are going to change. You spoke about a program that you had intended, or event you had intended to have, and you had to cancel it. But that is not a mark of failure. It's a marker of doing what you need to do. And so I'm so glad for that contribution, and I 100% agree. Anna, Executive Director, AfriLabs. What has AfriLabs been up to since March of last year?
Well, I think basically I can also speak to a lot of the challenges and emotions and sentiment that were earlier said on this panel, with Rene, Hanae, and Nadine, right? I mean, we started out the year with so many excellent plans. We're planning for our physical events in Morocco. Hanae can speak to that. We're speaking about all the physical events we're going to run as part of our capacity building program and all that, but then COVID happened and we had to go back to the drawing board. And it wasn't easy. I would say as a leader too, it wasn't the easiest as well, because at the same time we had the lockdown and we're pivoting a lot of our plans. I was also giving birth to my first child. So it was an interesting time as well. Happy, I have mixed feelings. I would say mostly happy for me, because obviously a baby comes with lots of lessons. But then one thing I would like to say, and I think this is important to also note on an organization-wide, is that we are made up of really strong women within the AfriLabs Secretariat, right? I mean, we have a female staff strength of over 70%. And these basically cut across the organization, including our board, which out of 7 women, out of 7 board members, we have 5 women as well. We have fantastic men on our team as well, doing the hard work, but then it's also important to understand that the organization, really speaks to the values of promoting women in leadership, on boards and decision making and the likes. Now, over the past year, what we've done is, as I mentioned, we've run a lot of our activities virtually. So our main program, which is our capacity building program, a 3-year program focused on building the capacity of hubs, supporting entrepreneurs, supporting innovators, funding projects, and building a hub curriculum, so far has impacted thousands of entrepreneurs and innovators across the continent. And what we've basically done is carried a lot of activities to run virtually, and also funded more projects. So what we saw, and a lot of feedback we got, of course, is a lot of hubs struggled as well in executing their programs and the likes. And what we did was look at the funding we had available to fund more hub projects. And really exciting to say as well is understanding that just generally across the world, but also within the ecosystem, women are disproportionately affected during times of economic crisis or social and environmental crisis. Last year, what we did, seeing that a rising number of women on the continent were also largely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic in the ecosystem, is that we ensured that a lot of our activities and projects we funded supported women, were targeted at supporting women and women-led businesses. For example, out of 17 grants that we gave out to hubs last year, 9 of them are focused specifically on supporting women entrepreneurs and women-led startups. And this is across the continent. And even within the women support programs, over 1,000 entrepreneurs being supported in Sudan, in Nigeria, in Uganda, Morocco, Cape Verde, Ghana, and Mali. And even with the other projects as well, which were either executed or supported, we always ensured that there was that gender balance or gender parity as well. Now, other things we did, we engaged in quite a number of projects, of course, dealing with the situation of the COVID-19 pandemic. An example of this, the EdTech Hub, which we're part of, as well as COVID Action, which basically focused on identifying innovations across the continent, which dealt with the effects of COVID, supporting communities be more resilient, basically, from health, strengthening health systems to the production of PPEs and the likes, right? And what we did is that we identified these innovations through our local scouts, again, with the support of our innovation hubs, and then supported and funded these projects as well. So I would say that a lot of our programs last year were largely focused on, continuing the work we do, which is building the capacity of our members, supporting entrepreneurs, supporting startups as well, facilitating funding and the likes, but then also looking at how we can all, play our part in dealing with the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, one of the things I also like to say is, in addition to having an amazing team, amazing board, and of course an amazing community of members, we had really great partners, I would say. I mean, one of the things I would say, running a nonprofit organization, and especially in the development space, is that we all know how rigid it can be when you're working with funds, right? You have to basically implement everything that was in the original plan. But we had the flexibility to basically pivot after making really strong cases on what the ecosystem really needed, as opposed to just, the perfect plans on paper, which was understandable because, of course, the entire world had to pivot their original plans. So I would say that having really great partners like the Friends Development Agency, for example, who funds our major programs, or having Mozilla, for example, as a great partner, who we ran a series of roundtables to engage our community, and Jembe Insights, which we develop insight reports, in addition to partners like KTN Global Alliance, UNDP, African Union. These are all partners that really played their part across the spectrum to really support the work that we did over the last year. A lot of it's still continuing this year. Now, this year we'll be looking to scale our existing programs. A lot of them that were quite successful will be, running a 2.0 of the programs, as well as launching Catalyst, which is a platform and a co-matching fund, which we'll be launching with the Africa Business Angels Network, focused on matching entrepreneurs within the hub network with startups within the AfriLabs network for that early stage investment. And once an investment is made, we match it with a matching grant, with the hub playing a very important role of supporting with follow-on support, also supported by funds, and reporting back growth metrics to the platform, which would inform the ecosystem in general on the state of early stage investments and startups that need to be supported on the continent. So yeah, it was a bittersweet a year, but just grateful for all the support of people, both internally within the team, but also externally as well.
Great, thank you, Anna. I hear you talk about the importance of really good teams that are on point, the importance of just getting on with it despite the challenges, and also the importance of key partnerships. Jennifer, I see your comment, and congratulations on the work that you're doing with Education Sub-Saharan Africa. If you haven't seen it, please go onto the chat. Jennifer's doing some incredible work there. Rene and Nadine. My next question is particularly for, for the two of you. We are talking today about achieving an equal future in a COVID-19 world. I'd love to know in what ways your two organizations are bringing more women to the decision-making table and the policy-making table, and how you're doing it in a sustainable way so that it goes beyond a few months or even 1 year. And perhaps Nadine, you could go first.
For us at this point, we haven't really, in terms of COVID-19, we haven't really engaged women linked, the program linked to COVID-19. But what I would say is, with a lot of our programs, we are helping women get more visibility, which was not the case before. We're thinking of ways to create more market opportunities for the women in our program, and circulating all the opportunities that we get for them. We are pushing women to be more upfront with the actions that they're taking in the ecosystem, because I think with less and less opportunities and found that are more difficult to access. It is difficult for those women to make their ventures more sustainable. So every opportunities that we get to share funds with those women to make sure that they can be more visible and talk about their initiative as entrepreneurs, for us, we try to push those opportunities. Personally, as ourselves, me as a managing director, I take all the opportunities available to talk about the work we're doing with women, and also how we think policies can be updated and better for women to have better participation in the decision-making process around policies for startups in Francophone Africa. So I participate in a lot of, I think, a lot more of conferences and everything that has to do with women participation, and try to share especially the power of mentorship in the development of women, and trying to encourage more components that give more value to the work of women, and giving more support to women to really fit into this environment that is not always very fit for them. And yeah, we try to advocate for all those best practices we have seen that have shown results in our programs with the different hubs we are partners with.
Great, thank you, Nadine. So actually, something you've said there is quite powerful about advocating and sharing best practices, because I think what's really important is that we work based off data. It's not guesswork. You know, we're doing work that counts, because it's, you know, there's a proven track record of the way that we do things and what works and what doesn't work. So thank you very much for that. I also hear you talking about taking spaces. You've spoken about different times when, you know, you have stepped up to the table and been part of conversations. And then finally, mentorship. And I would add also sponsorship, right? And so Rene, I'm curious, what are you doing? What's your organization doing?
So last year, beginning of last year, we officially launched our RLabs Women pillar. I mean, we, of course, our organization, I think we have about 60% females in our, I mean, we have over almost 200 staff members now. And so, you know, that's a large chunk of women, and we make sure that in our exec team, it's 50%, and that's in our board of directors, but then also our management team. I think we have like 70% women, and we intentionally growing women. So whether they are leading teams, leading projects, we make sure that there's always women represented. At the same time, you don't just want a female to be sitting there and keeping a mouth, right? So we're making sure that she knows, like, she's got a voice, she's got an opinion, and she can use her brain. You know, she can think about things, and what is her opinion, what does she feel about it? Because the way women lead is it's a little different to men. And we can see it, it's quite evident. We see it in our programs. Two of our biggest programs within RLabs is our academy pillar and our innovation lab, which focus purely on innovation. Both of them are headed up by women. So they are, you know, strong. And I think the most exciting thing for me is when working with women is like, you know what, we just want to get the job done. We don't have a lot of time to sit around and talk. Yes, we talk about the fun stuff, you know. How do we make it better? How do we make sure that the rest of the women are included? So as we are moving, as we are building ourselves, as we have to make sure that we are building others. One of the other ways as well, especially with the RLabs Women pillar, we got a big focus on women in business, women entrepreneurs. Of course, with COVID, you know, all our events and training, we couldn't see each other anymore. So we took everything online. We would have a business lunch on a Thursday where women in business would just jump on a call together and just talk, you know, talk about the business, the challenges and those kind of things. We also have date nights every quarter where women in business come together, networking is so important. Like, you know, don't be afraid to share your ideas. So we always encouraging that. We recently just had because we had women on date night and then they get to pitch, and we decided to only invite women investors to the table, and we really wanted to test the model, you know. It was extremely successful. So we had women invest in women businesses, And that was really encouraging because the women were all like, you know, I also want to help someone. And one of the things for all RLabs, for our staff in particular, especially, I mean, of course, for everybody, but more in particular for the women, we encourage everyone to have a side business or side project. So you can't just be working at RLabs and and that's it. Every single person needs to be doing something else, and we make provision for that. So we have sessions after hours, after work, where we get together, but we make sure that it's actually becoming compulsory now, because we realized with COVID, we are thankful we could keep all our staff, and they could feed their families and take care of their families. But we realized it's so volatile, you can't just rely on that. And especially for women to understand, you need to have another income somewhere, and that money is for you to really just equip yourself, empower yourself, I don't know, go on holiday, do anything, because we realize when we speak to the women, especially the entrepreneurs, the reason when we ask them why are you in business, they're in business to feed their families, they're in business to put their children through school, and that is how it goes. And we're like, how do we expect to grow that? So we're encouraging everyone, have a side business, or I call it a side hustle, something that you're doing on the side that's generating income, or it's stretching your brain, or you're living your passion. Because a lot of the time, the work that we do is very hands-on with the community. So you're always giving of yourself, and we don't really have time to be babysitting our staff. So we're encouraging them, you know what, have a passion project, have something else that you're doing that's feeding you. And we've seen the results. We've seen how when they are performing in work, or needing to come up with new projects or new ideas, how innovative they are. Like, it's really blown me away. So yeah, we've really just encouraged everyone, you need to have something else, and just creating a space in the organization, in the ecosystem. And we're encouraging more and more people. So you need to have, we call it like a third space, this other place where you can live your dreams. Sometimes the work you do don't always make provision for that, especially when you're in leadership, lots of reports, spreadsheets, I have those things coming out of my eyes already, meetings, and those aren't really fun, right? But someone has to do it because you have to keep things going. And so we encourage everyone, especially as we're grooming women more and more in leadership and taking on more responsibility, we have to realize, what, have something else that's going to feed you, because this is what you do. If you're not going to take your seat at the table, then what did the other women do before us? Women went before us to make room, to make space for us. So now we have a voice. We can do almost anything, and someone had to sacrifice for that. So let's not take that for granted. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. I do have to commend you. As soon as the pandemic hit, for some reason, your posts began to really show up on my timeline, and I could see that you were having event after event, including when you got hacked. You still went on, and it didn't dissuade you. So well done on that. What I'm picking up from you is the importance of networking, the importance of enabling your teams to have other passions or other interests, that they're able to do, and perhaps even to plug into the work that they're doing with other women within their network, and that it's absolutely okay with that, and that's fantastic. Eunice, I see your message. You're currently working on a project that is training women in digital media. Congratulations. We have about 15 minutes on this call. I have one final question for Hanae and Anna. But before that, I want to let everyone know that before we end this session, we will be taking a photograph together. And so if you need to run and get your lip gloss, please do that so that everyone has their cameras on, so everyone can be part of of the photo that we take. For Hanae and for Anna, I'd love for you to speak a little bit more about your communities or the partners that have inspired you in the work that you're doing. And I know you mentioned it earlier, but maybe just what is it about working with those partners that really inspires you and gets you to wake up and go to AfriLabs, still excited to do your work in collaboration with them. And the same for you, Hanae. And Anna, you could. Oh, sorry, Hannah, you're unmuted already, so please do go first.
I'll go ahead. Before I answer your question, I just want to comment on what Rene said, and I think it's extremely important. And I love this practice that it's all about enabling people, and it's all about creating a very healthy relationship to work. This work is going to have impact over time, and I think we sometimes tend to forget with so much purpose that it's all about accepting the timing and really being centered. And so once we're centered ourselves, we enable people around us to be centered. I find this beautiful. I find this beautiful because it's consistent. And sometimes, I mean, I've seen in many organizations the lack of consistency between the vision, mission, and what the reality. So I applaud to what Rene is doing. And I think women are very good at really seeking the way to be consistent holistically. So I applaud to that, and I'm very inspired by that. Now, to answer your question, Nikeza, right now our main partners are the US Embassy, with whom we're doing an Academy for Women Entrepreneurs. We have 50 women that are on boards for now, and 50 women that will be onboarded by July. We are also working with UNICEF. We've just finished a training with them for 25 women in the region of Tangier, so women that come from the peri-urban areas of the city, also some women from rural areas, which is very much our targets. That's very much how we started building the programs of Douar Tech. So how do we transfer skills from the innovative ecosystems that are mostly urban to rural areas, but also act as a bridge and make sure that it's not just the typical north to south type of transfer, but rather it's going both ways and empowering people on both sides. So that's the UNICEF program we finished just yesterday, and I'm extremely proud of my team because it went really well. And we have this wonderful partnership with the AfriLabs. Rene is about to start for women entrepreneurs that are from the continent. So it's funny because Douar Tech has its initial mission is very much the vulnerable youth, right? And as much as we want to continue creating impact in Morocco and incurring in Morocco, and we've started even kind of doing our own monitoring and evaluation way before we started receiving any funding from donors. Last year, for instance, we were partnering with a kind of an equivalent association that was seeking our expertise in terms of trainings and deployment, but they were just barely funding the trainings. So we did an evaluation last year with an expert that has that has 10 years of international development expertise, and we want to continue doing this because again we are looking at consistency, and we want to approach donors with this sense of we know what we're very good at, and we know what you're very good at as well, and we're capable of bringing on board some other people, and we can work together, because otherwise it's so very easy to be swamped by their own agenda, and yeah, but so essentially we're doing this, and at the same time there's an ecosystem building approach that is an additional layer to Douar Tech. So that's why we're working with AfriLabs so closely, and that's why because the mission is so beautiful. At the same time, I think what AfriLabs is doing is quite revolutionary. It's really bringing the innovators together at the continental level and creating this understanding that there is something going on from like bottom up, and so that's why Douar Tech is participating in this, even if it's slightly not its initial target. So yeah, and so through this we're building up our gender approach, which is something we kind of agreed upon. It was a lot of the thought process was quite complex initially, because we thought, oh, we want to create this equality, and we want to make sure that women and men from rural areas or peri-urban areas or vulnerable communities can sit at the same, in the same room and work together and have and grow respect for one another when it comes to work through digital skills and so on. And of course, it's very complex with the cultural barriers that we have to face. But eventually now we're much more comfortable with this idea of let's have women really embrace their full potential, really embrace their the space for self-expression, and then we'll work it through with the adjustment on male on board for that very mission. So yeah.
Thank you so much. And one thing that you said really stood out for me that I think is important. It's an important lesson that we learn as we run HAB, which is that you need to go to the conversation table with partners with your agenda and be very clear what that agenda is, and then work collaboratively with partners who see you, who understand your mission, and who will not sway you towards what they feel is important, but rather plug into what you're intent on doing. So thank you so much for that. Joanna, I see your comment and the great work that Mzuzu Hub is doing around digital skills and Digital Malawi project. Congratulations. Anna, what community members or what partners are inspiring you at AfriLabs?
Yeah, so I mentioned a couple of programs that we're running. I would say one of the partners that we're always happy about at the moment is the French Development Agency, AFD, who is currently running our 3-year capacity building program. They gave us a grant of 2 million euros to do that, and also funding Catalyst. In partnership with the Africa Business Angels Network, right? Other partners we worked with over the past year, which we're quite, happy and inspired about, not only because they've, basically funded projects, but also because we've worked together with aligned vision. They've worked with us to basically figure things out along the way, and they've been quite progressive in their approach and engaging the ecosystem. So these are partners such as Mozilla, for example, IMC, FCDO, KTN Global Alliance, who we carried out a series of surveys and analysis of the innovation ecosystem's response to COVID-19. I mentioned Djembe Consultant earlier. Now, one of the programs which we're really excited about last year and into this year is Roller Africa, which is basically a program that leverages on business simulation to support SMEs. And last year we focused on last year, we trained and supported over 300 SMEs, largely affected by COVID-19. And this was done in collaboration with 5 innovation hubs across the continent, all doing fantastic work and supported by the African Union and UNDP, right? So these are just a few of the partners which we've been most inspired by. But then our primary partners, we always say, are our community members, right? And I don't even know where to start in terms of how inspired we've been are continuously of our community members. One of the things we do every quarter is what we call a listening tour. And we basically get on the phone with all our community members and ask what they've been up to. And last year, just them speaking about their response to the pandemic, speaking to the resilience, speaking to what they did to support their communities, even in the hardest times. Rene said something that really spoke to me, which was, not just, thinking of themselves, but thinking of how they could impact people, even down to the basics of feeding people. So we saw that play out throughout the continent, and we were inspired. I mean, this is what kept us late at night, waking up early, working 7 days a week to basically see how we can better serve our community, because our community members were serving the larger community, right? So, but I'll give a couple of examples. And of course, in the spirit of International Women's Day, I'll give examples of the women doing great work. I will not repeat the ones on the panel here because doing fantastic work as well, but just a few, I would say that I'm quite inspired by Mara Michello of Jacaranda Hub in Zambia. And she's building this innovation program that is focused on a TV show actually called Tunia, which is basically a pitch and investment readiness program focused on increasing the level of investment into startups, you know, and she's also led this One Kwacha fund to crowdfund investment into early stage startups, right? We've had amazing community members as well. Part of our board, I've mentioned our board is made up of largely women, you know, so Kudai, for example, in Zimbabwe, doing fantastic work. She was part of Rural Africa as well, really doing a lot of work to increase financial literacy of not just women, but people in general in her ecosystem. Rebecca Enonchong, who is part of ABAN. So I'll also speak about ABAN as a partner. So ABAN, who, you know, we're launching this program with, also inspires us in a way that they have really interesting investors within the African ecosystem, and it's quite tough, you know, investing in early stage startups. First, they don't. A lot of them don't have the capacity that matches how much they would like to support investment. You know, a lot of investments on the ecosystem are largely small ticket sizes, so $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, and then we're doing what we can to support startups on a continent, as opposed to other ecosystems where they're getting $50,000, $100,000, you know, and also the policies are not that enabling for investors, you know, looking at protecting your investments or things around, you know, capital gain taxes and, you know, all of that. But then we have amazing investors within the ecosystem, you know, such as Yemi Kerry, for example, who runs a female-only syndicate in Lagos, which is focused on investing in female-led startups. I mentioned Rebecca, who, you know, led the setup of the Cameroon Angels Network. We have those Esther in Dati, for example, for Kenya. Eva So from Senegal, who has also set up a group to support startups and invest as well. So these are all examples of people and women who are really inspired by and who drive our work every single day on the continent. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think it's so important that we name them. Sometimes we get so caught up in the work that we're doing that even we don't appreciate what we are doing, and it really counts on the tribe of women, on the community of women to constantly call out the good work that we're doing. And so it's so important that we are naming them, and I encourage you even in the comments to continue to name them in your work, you know, continue to name them in the boardrooms, at your meetings, you know, in your blogs. We can't underestimate the value and the, you know, kind of like the wind and our sails that it gives us when you hear another woman name you and elevate you and speak about your work. So let's keep doing that. Now we're drawing towards the end. I'm going to ask everyone in the audience to please turn on your cameras, yeah, so that you can take the photo together. But as you do that for the panel, as your parting shots, and we'll begin with Nadine. We have a lot of people on the call that are hub managers, that are community managers, that are leaders within their organizations. As these kinds of leaders that we are, many times we have many faces. We are parents, we are sisters, we are, you know, we are psychiatrists. We basically are the people that our communities go to for more things than just being nurtured as far as entrepreneurship. And sometimes it really gets to you, and it takes quite a bit to keep going back in every day to do that. But you've done it for several years, right? So as your parting shot, how do you encourage the women that perhaps today were like, you know what, maybe I'm shutting down and I'm going to begin applying for jobs because I'm done with the hub life? Should they keep going on?
Yeah, I would say we are women, we are humans, and sometimes you get tired and you just need to take some time and relax and get back stronger. And my advice to that is we tend to always not give ourselves a space to feel. And what I want to share with people through this time of stress and uncertainty and things not working the way we expect them to be is allow yourself to feel and then get back stronger after feeling. There's always hope, and on ourselves at home and with our entrepreneurs, build that hope within yourself. We tend to motivate, we tend to make other people stronger, but we forgot. We always forget to sit in front of a mirror and encourage ourselves and say, it all shall pass and I will survive. So good luck and a lot of strength to all the women that are trying to change the world. It's not easy, so many roles to take, so many faces, but some people have done it. And if they can, you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
Okay, what was the question? Apologies.
So we've got a lot of women listening on this call who perhaps today were just so frustrated with the work of managing communities and leading teams, and what would be your words of encouragement to them?
Well, I would always say, and I'll say what works for me anyway, which is always remember the why, right? So why are you doing what you do, right? Why, if it's about impact, focus on the impact, right? Things will get tough, things will be frustrating, which is normal in leadership, right? Sometimes more than others. But then once you remember the end goal, which is basically the lives that will be impacted, literally by waking up in the morning and pushing those boundaries, then yes, that would always help. Then of course, lean on people who push you, lean on people who advise you, lean on people who you can speak to anytime you're frustrated. I would always say again, my team is amazing. Just speaking to each other whenever we're just frustrated or we're trying to figure things out always helps. So shout out to everyone on the AfriLabs team who is on this call. Thank you for the amazing work that you all do. And of course, our board members as advisors as well, just to run things through. So yes, I would say that, always remembering the why, keeping the mission, that vision in your head on why you do what you do. And then of course, surrounding yourself by good people who would always encourage you as well. And of course, having a balanced life, right? So family is so important. I mean, there are times when I completely shut off and just focused inwards on family, bring me the greatest joy. That is so important in just continuing the work that you do, no matter how tough it gets.
Thank you very much, Rene.
I would actually like to quote the theme for International Women's Day, which is choose to challenge. And I would like to encourage everyone, choose to challenge yourself, challenge the status quo, challenge each other. We use the word challenge and we think it's a negative thing. It's not actually. It's the how you do it. And so even when you see other women are struggling and you can challenge them, because sometimes we just need some voice to be shouting in our ears and say, don't give up, not yet, the time hasn't come to give up yet. And so we need that, and so we actually need to challenge each other and not be afraid of that. And I think as women, it's the days are gone when it was always a negative thing, we're always breaking each other down. I think we're in a completely different era now, where we understand if you grow, if you are moving, I am moving, I am growing. So I have to make sure that someone else is always growing and someone else is always moving. And so, yeah, I would encourage everyone, choose to challenge. Thank you.
Thank you.
What can I add to these words of wisdom, really? I'll add a few things. I think I'll add that it's really important, and I'm very much in this phase now of understanding that, as you'll probably, once you get acquainted with how much of a doer you are, it's all the more beautiful to get acquainted with how much of a being you are. and embodying your values and having this consistency sometimes makes you do the work without having to do the work. Just by being there at the table, being there at the space, being there with your team, so much is going on just by the energy that you're bringing and the intuition that you're allowing, and you're kind of channeling to this place. So I feel like so many people that are in this movement that have already embraced the change and already embraced to leave old patterns behind and bring forth the new, can also allow themselves sometimes trust their intuition and trust their capacity and their power to just be there and be together and continuing one day after another. So that's my 2 cents of wisdom after these wonderful ladies have spoken already.
Thank you very much. That was perfect. So be present, be there, allow yourself to feel, remember your why, and choose to challenge. Thank you so much, ladies, for a fabulous conversation. I'm encouraged, I'm empowered, and I really feel like I'm in very good company, and I hope it's the same for the other people on this call. So thank you so much for your time. And now we are going to get into our photo, and I'll ask Sarah, Joshua, or whoever is in charge for that to please tell us when you have it. But in the meantime, please turn on your cameras. Remember that the theme for this year is Choose to Challenge, and the symbol for that is to put your hand up. And so I'll ask that everyone puts their hand up for this call, and the AfriLabs team, please take the photo and let us know when you're done. And hopefully, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sure.
Are you gonna give us a countdown so we know when you're ready?
Okay, 1, 2, go. Okay, I'm done. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining the call. Have a pleasant Wednesday. Talk to each other. Please continue to encourage each other and have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Did it. Well done. This was so good.